Have you ever found yourself sitting by the window, watching the world go by, and wondering, do people notice us anymore? Does anyone understand the quiet ache of being left behind, even as the years pile up with memories? Maybe, just maybe, there are days when the phone is too quiet and the house feels just a shade too big. If that's ever been you, I want you to know you're not alone. Today, we're going to talk about gentle, real ways to bring back a spark of joy, right here, right now, right in the golden years of our lives. I'm Albert, and this is Golden Age Wisdom. It's where we talk heart to heart about living fully, loving what we have, and finding beauty in every new dawn. So, let's settle in, grab a warm cup of tea, and talk about 5 caring ways for those of us over 65 to reclaim joy even when we feel a little forgotten. If you've ever had one of those long afternoons where the world feels far away, this one's for you. First, let's talk about the feeling itself, feeling left behind. Maybe your days look different than they used to. Maybe family has grown and scattered, or dear friends are now just voices on the telephone, or memories on the mantle. I've been there too. I remember after my wife Dorothy passed, I'd stare at her favorite lamp, a blue and white one from the old apartment, and just feel this stillness all around me. Some days it was peaceful. Other days it ached so deep I wondered if it was always going to feel that way. But as I learned, we don't have to stay in that feeling. There are small, gentle ways we can bring joy back in. Let me share 5 that have filled my own years with new meaning and might help you too. First way, reach out, even when it's hard. Now, I'll be honest, sometimes taking the first step is the hardest, especially when you feel like the world has gotten so busy. And phones, computers, all those gadgets. Sometimes it seems like everything's gone faster than I have. But connection matters more than we can know. I have a dear friend, Harold. He's lived down the street from me almost 30 years. There was a spell after his wife passed, and after both our kids moved away, when we just stopped seeing each other without even meaning to. Days blended into weeks. It was a strange, lonely time. One Wednesday, I mustered up my courage, called him up and said, "Harold, I was thinking about your apple pie recipe the other day. How about a cup of coffee this afternoon?" I could almost hear the smile on the other end of the line. That simple moment, reaching out, started something. We began sharing stories again, remembering old fishing trips and swapping newspaper clippings. It reminded me, joy often begins just by opening the door, or picking up the phone, or writing a letter the old-fashioned way. If reaching out feels daunting, start small. Perhaps you send a postcard to a grandchild or a neighbor you haven't spoken with in a while. If you're part of a church or community group, drop by. Even just saying good morning to someone on your block can make you feel noticed and remind them they're seen too. Every conversation is a little bridge, sometimes rickety, but strong enough to carry hope across. And remember, you could be the light in someone else's lonely day too. I'd love to know, dear friends, do you have a little routine for staying connected? Or a memory of someone reaching out to you when you needed it most? If you feel comfortable, share your story in the comments below. Your words could touch someone else right when they need it. Second way, tend to something living. You know, there's a simple joy in caring for something that depends on you. A plant, a pet, even a patch of tomatoes behind the house. Giving a little care each day, watching life grow, brings purpose and gentle rhythm to our days. Let me tell you about Ruth, my neighbor until a few years back. Ruth kept a tiny row of geraniums on her balcony, the sort of flowers that glow right through autumn if you tend to them. She once told me, "Albert, sometimes I don't feel like getting up, but those blossoms remind me I'm needed. Someone, something, counts on me just to turn the soil and bring a drink of water." I've thought about that often. After Dorothy passed, I started tending to her old African violets. At first, it was just routine, but as time passed, I noticed how the leaves stretched toward the window, reaching for the sun. I started talking to them, not in words, but just in spirit. The air seemed a bit sweeter in those moments, filled with gentle purpose. Looking after something living helps us remember we're still part of the great tapestry. Our hands still bring light. Whether it's feeding the birds each morning, walking a small dog, or coaxing seeds to life in spring, tending reminds us we matter. And if you can, try nurturing yourself too. That might be letting in a bit more sunshine through the curtains, or taking an extra moment to savor your favorite bowl of soup. Let yourself be tended, even by your own kindness. Third way, revisit favorite memories and make new ones. Many folks tell me, "Albert, my memories are all I have these days." And I say, "What treasures?" But every treasure chest has room for more. I remember my friend Bill. He used to say, "The mind's a cupboard, always full, but always with space for another cookie jar." Bill kept a shoebox under his bed, stuffed with old baseball tickets, birthday cards from his grandkids, even a strip of plaid torn from his first car's seat. When his days felt empty, Bill would pull out the box and relive each memory one by one. He could turn an afternoon gray with rain into an adventure through all those tokens. But here's the rub. Memories aren't only about the past. We're still here, after all. After Dorothy was gone, my daughter Emily invited me on a walk through a botanical garden I'd never visited. I hesitated. There was a time I thought adventures were for the young. But she gently insisted, and off we went. There, surrounded by blooms I'd never seen, I made a brand new memory. One with laughter and sunlight and the warm touch of my daughter's hand in mine. That day I realized new memories grow in the same soil as old ones, if you let them. So I encourage you, dust off your photo albums, call up a friend to reminisce, or write down a funny family story to share with your grandchildren. If you're able, step outside and savor something new. A local concert, a stroll through the market, even trying your hand at a new craft. Each memory, old or new, is a little patch in your life's quilt, warm enough to carry you through any wintry afternoon. And speaking of memories, if you have a special one that brings you comfort or joy, I invite you to share it in the comments. Sometimes, reading another's memory is like sitting together by a cozy fire, swapping stories through the night. Fourth way, find meaning in small rituals. When you reach a certain age, life slows down. Some mornings, the days seem to blend right into each other, like watercolor at the edge of the paper. But meaning often lives in the little rituals of our everyday, the things we do to honor ourselves and those we love. Let me tell you about Dorothy again. She loved morning coffee, but it wasn't just the drink. It was the quiet ritual. She'd set our old kitchen table just so, folded the newspaper, and lit a little candle, even in the summertime. Those 5 minutes became a touchstone, a gentle start to whatever the day would bring. After she was gone, I skipped the candle at first. It felt too empty. But one chilly morning, I dusted off the box and struck a match. I could almost hear her hum as the flame danced. That small act, lighting a candle, savoring the scent, proved a way to start the day with intention and warmth. Perhaps your ritual is setting out bread for the birds or saying a quiet prayer for your family before bed. Maybe it's listening to the old radio tunes as you wash up in the evening. These small routines give a beat to our days, a gentle reassurance that each moment matters. Even when the world outside feels noisy and fast, small rituals teach us to slow down and savor what's right here, right now. They're like stitching from one day to the next, so time doesn't slip by unnoticed. If you don't have a ritual that brings you comfort these days, consider making one. It could be as simple as a midday walk or jotting a grateful thought in a notebook before sleep. Give yourself permission to create meaning, even and especially in the smallest acts. Fifth way, practice gentle kindness to yourself. Here's something I learned much too late. Kindness often begins with how we treat ourselves. For years, I thought my job was to look after everyone else, children, neighbors, even strangers in line at the drugstore. But none of us is made of iron. There was a long spell, right after I turned 70, when the world felt like it had left me behind. I was too slow for city buses, too old for long hikes. I scolded myself for not keeping up. Then, one afternoon, I heard a bird singing outside my window. Soft, persistent, unhurried. I sat down, let the sun cross my lap, and realized that bird didn't care how strong or swift it was. It sang because that's what it was made for. So I started talking to myself a little more gently. If I had a hard day, I'd let myself rest, really rest, not just stare at the clock and fret. If I lost my temper with my aching knees, I'd make a cup of tea and forgive myself. I slowed down enough to notice what my body and heart needed. Sometimes it was music or a good soak or just the grace to say, I'm enough. Kindness to yourself might mean saying no to one more volunteer hour when your feet are sore. Or it might mean treating yourself to a second slice of pie without guilt. It could be writing down the things you still do well or planning a small outing just for you. We are gentle creatures, babies in old bodies sometimes. So let yourself off the hook and treat yourself as kindly as you would a dear friend. I want to pause here and gently remind you, if you're finding something in these words that comforts or inspires you, and you'd like to walk with me and others through the weeks ahead, feel free to subscribe to Golden Age Wisdom. We share more warm stories and practical help for making these years truly golden. Now, dear friends, let's take a slow, sweet breath together. Maybe your life looks a little quieter than it used to. Maybe the phone rings less, and the laughter is sometimes just echoes in a hallway. But know this, you are not forgotten. You are part of the fabric that holds so many stories, so much wisdom and love. If today feels hard, remember that every dawn is a new song, and sometimes joy is hiding in the smallest places. The curl of a sleeping cat, the scent of coffee before anyone else is up, the scratch of a pen as you sign your name. Let me run back through the 5 ways we talked about. First, it's reaching out, even when it feels like the door is heavy. Second, tending to something living, plants, pets, or just the garden of your own heart. Third, honoring old memories and daring to welcome new ones. Fourth, finding comfort in little rituals, those golden rhythms that make each day matter. And fifth, practicing kindness for yourself, as gently as you'd care for a friend. Each day is yours, just as precious as the last, and still full of possibility. I'd be honored if you'd share in the comments one little thing that brings you joy, or a habit that's lifted your spirits. Sometimes, sharing your small light can help guide someone else through the shadows. If you found this conversation comforting, would you consider gently pressing the like button? And if you think this message might help a friend or neighbor, send it along. We're never too old to build a new bridge or to share hope, one story at a time. Thank you for spending this gentle time with me, dear ones. Remember, the world may seem busy, but you are still seen, still important, and always deeply loved. Until next time, I'm Albert. Take heart, stay kind, to others and to yourself. And may tomorrow bring you a little more warmth and a little more joy.